not necessarily, but you know, I'm going to go even further than that. I was about to say, oh, they haven't been the fastest team. I think LNG are our slowest team in the LPL right now. Very good at playing through that slower pace of game and scaling up into relevance, but they're going to have to play against a faster pace early game with Ahri mid-jungle being locked in from LGD. Just having the Ahri, regardless of the jungler alongside it, means that you are probably going to eat a difficult fight at level 6 to level 8 around that point in the game. So maybe Tarzan and Scout need to keep their eyes and ears open for what LGD throw at them first.
Yeah. Worth mentioning as well, Decade going to be playing today. They have been swapping back and forth. I'd say fearness has played slightly more than half of the games, but Decade coming back in for today. Tarzan going to go with the Sejuani though, not the Maokai that I talked about before. And with 2 melee solo laners like that, I mean, this looks like a mighty powerful first half of the draft for LNG.
When you see the Wukong, it makes it a little harder to play Maokai at the pro level because a lot of the time Wukong can hold onto their clone to block up one of the Maokai tendrils from that Nature's Grasp. I think something like the Sejuani as well allows you to play, again, a little bit more towards the faster pace of style, or at least hang in there with the faster style, which is going to be coming out from this draft from LGD, even in just the first few picks. Of course, Ral, the reworks come through. We've been seeing that a lot on 13-12. Very strong champion. It allows you to play some kill lanes towards bot side. We even saw a jungle game of it from Kanavi. That was particularly fun. It's not been prevalent, of course, the Wukong's locked in. But worth mentioning either way. Interested to see now if this opens up any different picks for LPC, with the Ral being a strong, engaging support towards the bot side.
I'm just thinking about AD carries for Gala here as well, because, like, you know, we've already seen targeted bans like the Kai'Sa, the Ashe taken away. I was about to mention the Ziggs. I was thinking that would sneak on through. It's not. They're well aware.
You
Ziggs
tried to be
banned
clever,
away.
Munch. I see you there.
And look, I was setting it all up. It was the perfect, like, self-setup to knock it out of the park. No, Ziggs taken off the board, though. Aphelios, still available. I feel like that might be the way Gala goes.
Maybe something like Varus could also hit the table too.
True,
Interested to see if there's going to be a takeaway though of that from LPC. Very comfortable on the champion. As soon as AP Varus started coming back with the Shiv being prominent, one of the first players I thought of was LPC, who even back in spring was playing Lord of the Varus even in the poke varieties. So that hover, I'm expecting that to get locked in. It's a takeaway. It's good for the LGT bot laner as well, and it just means that Gala has very few picks remaining. See, hovering over basically. Jin angle, I would say no, but then I think if all the 80 carries that are left are like, we'll see.
Like, I'm just saying, when Ashe and Varus are in the meta, Jin is in the meta. That's just how it has historically happened. It doesn't feel that way for the first time, in my memory at least, but then my memory is terrible.
Jin doesn't build Shiv, you see.
Ah, that's true. That's true. He might be able to. With Shiv state in 12-12, maybe he can.
Could you imagine AP Shiv Jin just doing trap max and then just like putting 8 traps in the bush so we get the full Earth build? That would be just wonderful.
Night Harvester proc on the explosion. Oh, you love to see it. Casante's made it all the way through. Decade just going to lock that one in to finish us off. So, quite an interesting draft here, honestly. Bit of a weird one from both sides. Aphelios versus Varus in the bottom side. We get that Alistair coming through as well. But the top side, I feel like it really is a matter of perspective on who has the strength there, right? Because Sejuani with the melee solo lanes, just by default, very, very strong. But then equally, you know, you've got the Ahri Wukong combo, you've got a Casante for LGD. They're like both sides have a lot of strength at the top half of the map.
The way I'm going to phrase this is, if everyone is stacked on top of each other, LNG probably win the top side duel. If someone gets split apart and can get reached by Ahri Wukong or Casante dragging them over a wall, I think LGD probably have the advantage. Of course, it's not as simple as that as well. Wukong loves those group fights as much as the other champions on the other side of the rift, but it feels like it's
actually Gala's most played AD carry of the split. The fact that it goes so late and, like you say, so reluctantly. I don't know why I said like you say, I said that. But here we go, LNG versus LGD. I remember for LNG, this is still an important series. They want to be as high in the standings as possible as JinJiao, starting as he means to go on, jumping over the wall, but won't find anything.
Not just now. Of course, we see this a bit with the Rakan, something like a Gragas as well. You get the ability to play some shenanigans at the level 1 mark. The crowd, of course, were not daunted by that at all. They ring out with the JIOs, and we're back to our 5-man fan.
So we already talked a bit about like the strength in the top side, but with like Rel Alistair here with a Varus on the scoreboard. Like, talk me through Oh no, JinJiao, come on, man.
We're safe.
The fact
Carry
that the
on.
observers
Carry on.
caught it as well. The observers caught it. They never miss a mess up. Talk to me about these compositions. What should we be expecting moving forward in the early game here?
So I think what we will see is probably some lane priority in mid and bot lane from LGD, which will allow Meteor some early angles. He's been fairly varied with his early pathings. Keep your eyes on what happens with mid and bot lane. I think on draft it should be LGD pushing in those sides of the map, and then Meteor having some options. And then you're really waiting until level 6 and first items. I think once you get Shiv coming through from something like the Varus, I'm assuming it's going to be the Shiv, because it allows you so much wave control. At that
Let's be honest, it's always Shiv at this point.
Varus does have at least some build options going towards poke as well, but you're really looking for LGD to get control of lanes, wave push, and then use their engage range to really threaten. You've got a Rel that can jump a million miles. You've got Ahri and Wukong and Varus, which can also engage from a very long way as well. LNG are looking to break that pressure and buy some space for like a huge Jace Sejuani Aphelios combo to really blow up on the map and stop LGD from running over with an early game advantage.
See if they can do it. There's a heavy trade in the mid lane there, but going fairly even. And I feel like just looking at these solo lanes already, you just know it's going to be quite an exciting one, don't you? It feels like the solo laners are feeling aggressive in these matchups already, as Zika, you know, willing to blind that Jax. We need to see him have a good performance today on a pick like that. It always feels like one of those picks that some teams are much more confident to go for blind than others. Good charm from Haichao, but he stepped up a little too much. Meteor hovering. Good play from the LGD jungler.
He needs to be like this as well, though, because there's kind of like a bond of trust between pushing lanes and junglers, right? Where the pushing lanes say, we will roam to wherever you find a fight in the jungle, but if we come under fire, you need to be there to protect us as well. So Meteor in the right place at the right time to help out this Ahri with the early push. And interested to see, of course, how Haichao will do on my main champion. I always have it's a bit of a way to die. I feel like we've seen so much Ahri at pro level. It's kind of removed some of the special nature of you seeing my main champion pro play. But when you see the special performances, it really does make it hit harder.
Yeah. I will say Meteor as well, like, really, really solid stuff to read Tarzan on that initial play. But again, like, I've started to just expect this from Meteor. I've started to expect, like, a good level of performance out from the LGD jungler, which the fact that his team is in 17th place says a lot about his individual performance across the course of the year so far. Like, Meteor has had a commendable split. And, you know, a few years ago, Meteor really was a standout player in the LPL, in that jungle role. So it's good to see him coming back into form, because I feel like he had a couple of rough years.
And I guess to put things in perspective as well, LGD, they haven't won many best of threes, but you compare them to, in terms of like best of one score, to say, I don't know, say a team like Ultra Prime. They're currently in 13th. They're 4-9. So they have 2 more series wins. I mean, they're within one best of one of each other. LGD at, I believe, minus 13 games, Ultra Prime at minus 12 in that. And you think, actually, you know, comparing that, it is the difference just between getting those wins in the same series. LGD, of course, took games off of BLG and JDG as well. A lot of that is off of players like Meteor having strong performances over summer.
It certainly is. Great stuff from him. We'll see if he can keep it up for the last remaining 3 series, I believe it is, if I can count. As aggressive trading out from Zika here. Decade might be able to get his Q3 up and available as Meteor moves into the lane. Flash forwards to get the slow. Zika with a ward hop, and he's gone the wrong way. Had flash, but didn't think he could get underneath the tower, and it will be Meteor just waltzing into the lane to claim first blood.
No mana for Counter-Strike. Couldn't get out of that one alive. At best, it would have been flash lost, traded with Meteor, and then also the death on top of it either way. So Zika decides to cut their losses individually, keep the flash, lose the teleport, lose their life, but that's about it. So at least they have flash up in the lane towards top side, but the kill over towards Meteor, it's going to be a little bit awkward. And as we were saying, coming from the draft, it feels like the top side power from these teams is much more skewed towards LGD if you are split. Someone like that Wukong and Xante, very good at kind of taking down the individual first target. Same with the Ahri when mid lane gets involved as well. With those leads starting to come through in top side now, with Ahri pushing in, and of course that first blood over to Meteor, I think it's important for LGD to again try and look for those split plays and stop LNG racking up their own gold before they can start grouping and using their composition better.
So Drake taken from LNG as Gala managing to find the push there. Obviously with Zika going down to Meteor in the top side, that was instantly the go button for the side of LNG. We'll see if they can keep those Drakes stacking on up. I will say Tarzan, less influence in these lanes than like, when you see a Sejuani, to me, it's like, okay, this guy's going to either be invading or going into these lanes a lot of the time, especially when you're locking in melee solo lanes. So far, relatively quiet from him. Just going to be, you know, there was the attempt towards mid lane earlier on, but well answered by Meteor. And now it's Tarzan answering Meteor's play on the top side.
I mean, particularly with these lanes, though. I mean, you can see the CS lead in bot lane. You kind of expect that with VODS versus Aphelios, and of course, mid lane was pushing in as well. Trying to play aggressively with 2 losing lanes is just rough. So Tarzan, at least keeping himself relevant in terms of farm, and we'll see what he can do when we're coming around to the next objectives of the game. Already got that first dragon. Of course, in the next minute, we'll have Herald spawning as well. Potentially an angle there from LNG if they have a good first Sejuani ult to the game. Might be a little bit difficult versus the level 6 of LGD, and that's an ult on the turret.
That's a flash forced out from Zika's Decade. Nice little all-in. Fall out, I suppose, as he could maybe look for the Q3 here. Zika will dodge it, will read it, keeps himself safe. That Q3 hits, and it could get real dicey, but his ultimate's going to time out, and we kind of go back to neutral. Grandmaster's Might available for Zika, so now Decade will have to be a little cautious in the trades.
Zika, very happy he saved the flash from that earlier kill.
Yeah.
To flash away and panic. All in on the bot side, though, 3v2.
Some big damage onto JinJiao, but traded back onto Hung as well as LPC's overcommitted. Flashes forwards, and he does get the kill. It's answered with his own life, and actually it's Tarzan to get the kill. In the meantime, Zika's gone down up top.
And he died in the back of the Herald pit. Strange position. Would love to get a replay of what happened topside. Scout at least pushes in a wave towards this mid lane, but again, you can see that even in these early fights, the Varus has so much value and can do a lot versus the Aphelios.
You know, usually, oh, hang on. Scout's going in 1v2, and he's just got a solo kill onto Haichao. JinJiao's here alongside Meteor to try and finish the player off. Tarzan over the wall. Can he finish anything? As Hung's moving over as well, but they won't chase for more just yet. Herald spawning onto the map here. Is Tarzan going to start this?
I think he can afford to, knowing that Haichao will not be back in time to contest this Herald early enough. So both supports were on the roam. We're going to get a replay of first the bot side play. So this is why we're seeing a lot more Varus, particularly into something like the Aphelios. Varus has to go towards the Shiv, which kind of extends their mid-game power, which means that you can play through their early power. LPC, great player of the Varus, knows his damage limits, gets to the stacks of the Blighted Quiver, and gets a whole load of gold. Gala, however, getting some assist gold, still no bad thing. Towards topside. Zika goes for a fruit, gets punished for it. Ult's coming through from topside, and LGD at least managing to find themselves some advantages through the split topside fights we've asked them to take.
Yeah, Zika kind of caught out of position there, not expecting 3 enemy players to move over to him and punish for it. So, all things considered, 6 kills on the board now. LGD with a bit of a gold lead to start us off. And again, I keep on talking about it. Meteor just popping off. 2-0-1, not a bad little start to things for the side of LGD. LNG, they can be a little quiet sometimes in the early game, and I feel like we are seeing that. Although, Scout, not quiet in this early game, just go for a 2v1 solo kill. That was pretty noisy.
Yeah, Scout's the guy like on the hilltop next to you, screaming and running his way towards you. He'll reach you at some point. You can still hear him. He's fairly loud at this point. But again, this is LGD Game 1. It's Game 1 in the series. They always have this ability to prep very well, regardless of opponents, and come in with a strong composition. Earlier in the split, it was stuff like double AD carries, and later on, they've gone towards some weirder compositions. Again, this one's a bit more standard, but still, early game presence, nothing to be sniffed at from that.
Certainly not. Certainly not, as Scout going to try and crash this wave in. He's got support moving in from Tarzan and Hung. Remember, that Herald was taken by Tarzan, so that's usable. A, to find priority for the Drake that's coming up in 30 seconds, or B, to just try and find a massive influx of gold. Red and white weapons there for Gala, but the red one is about to run out of ammo, so won't have the combo to try and hit the tower alongside Herald, should that be the play from LNG.
You've got the crescendum either way, and you've got your turrets. So the crescendum's the important part of it, right? It's the increased attack speed, and the ability to stack chakrams is still important, but of course, you're going to get some value out of that one. So,
yeah,
with that in mind, that would have been an okay window to drop it in, but I think with resets coming in time from LGD, with the base coming through very recently from LGD, I don't think LNG think they could have won a fight if it had come to it, particularly with ults available from JinJiao and LPC towards that bot side. First item for LPC as well. I think LGD make the right choice in not going for the fight immediately around the power spike of that Varus, which does leave the question, where are you going to use this? Can you throw it down anywhere useful? Maybe Scout can find himself an advantage towards the mid lane. He's been doing that so far, but as it stands, LGD going to force LNG's hand first with the Dragon.
So Dragon started here. It's LGD, 4 men strong. You'd expect LNG to just back away from this one, so nicely done there by LGD, and the Herald still unused by Tarzan. Looking towards mid lane now as Scout did go for a recall. And it feels like LGD very much in the driver's seat for the time being. 1,000 gold up, now even in Drake's as well. Scout will start to hit a lot harder over the next couple of minutes. That lethality finally coming online with the Mythic there, and you can see over halfway to stacking the tiers. So when that Muramana is finished off, like, Jace really starts to hit hard. So we'll have to keep an eye on towards the LNG mid laner. There is a reasonable amount of scaling in their composition, but very quiet start.
It is. When they get to group later on, loads of damage. The question is, can you get to that late game point, particularly with, it feels like you have a real chokehold from this composition early on from LGD, which is continued by the static shiv of the Varus. I think this is very important. I was about to go revisit this point because as soon as Varus decides to step into mid lane, static shiv means you can never kill that mid lane turret. Putting down a Herald and potentially getting a second one is very important.
Meteor immediately regretting his decision to engage this one. Chased down by Tarzan. Scout, no cooldowns here, can't catch up with the shock plus hits. Oh, but he barely survives. And Haichao will protect his jungler. Meteor got away with that by the skin of his teeth.
It does, but you understand why they go for that play. If you can stop that Herald going into mid-tower, it means that your play pattern of just controlling mid-wave with Ahri's early wave clear and then Varus stationing himself there later into the game with a static shift becomes so hard for LNG to play around. LNG getting that Herald into mid-lane tower, potentially getting a second Herald later in as well. We'll see if they can get that objective. Very important for their mid-game plans, even if they are just on the horizon.
Certainly will be. As LPC with the shift now finished off, should be able to find pretty much infinite priority. He actually got kind of ruined by the minion wave on the previous one. The first melee kind of separated from the rest of the gang, so the lightning didn't chain across the team. But should be able to find prio. However, JinJiao in all kinds of trouble right here. Moonlight Vigil will land, but that's the extent of the damage, and now Hung could be the one in trouble. Shock Blast again leaves someone alive, but he's finished off this time. And there's 2 for LNG. They've come online, and they're looking for some plays. Meteor with no flash, so Scout gets the second one. It's his 3rd of the game, and Haichao suddenly alone.
Scout is just built different. This guy is making all of the important plays in this game from LNG. Finds himself with some really important Shock Blasts early on. Even though he's in a bit of a difficult lane, Jace can suffer against the Ahri, especially with a jungle which can't really impact the matchup as early on versus the Wukong either, but he's completely blown this game wide open for LNG.
Yeah.
LGD were really hoping to, again, hold on to this mid lane kind of full court press, have the Varus be pushing in permanently as well. Getting kills like this completely changed the game. After this point, LNG are free to group up. They're free to use their damage because Scout has impacted the game so early and stopped LGD from getting the wave control and gold advantages that they need from this early game.
So the first strike helping to finish that one off there for Scout, as well as the Scorch. And then Meteor, you know, trying to jump in to help his team, but too little too late. And LNG, I mean, pretty much just winning the 2v2 in the bottom side as well. I feel like there was like LPC now starting to return damage on the second half of the trade, but then Scout arrives, saves the day. LNG, they want to contest this second Herald here. 4 players moving in. Zika recalling, but has TP available. 2k on the Herald, though. It's going to go down. In the meantime, they're trading for LPC. Good ult from him to stay alive for a moment, but it is just a moment. Zika in with the counter-strike as him and Hung charging forwards. Gala there to follow up with the damage, but LGD trying to escape now. Tarzan herding them from the top side, trying to stop the escape from happening. Decade here to protect his team. JinJiao dives across the squad, but LNG, they're just tearing them asunder. Meteor trying to escape at 1 HP again. 1 HP for Decade too. LGD, how have they got away with 1 HP so many times this game already? Haichao with the Spirit Rush. Can he find a miracle? No, he can't. Yes, he can. Hung goes down, but it's a triple for Zika.
What a disaster for LGD. The early game plan was solid, but then they just got outsmarted and outscouted, let's be honest. Scout once again on the Jason, huge value. This Herald fight really felt like an overestimation of LPC, who just used his cleanse in that bot side fight, and LNG punish accordingly. We'll see it again in this replay. Because it's the AP Varus, you're really looking for that kind of the damage which comes through at the back end of the fight, but you need to start stacking up your Blighted Quiver and then get a WQ to get the Empowered Arrow through people as well. And as you can see, it just isn't enough on his own to do all the damage himself. LGD at least get away with the Herald, but for the amount they lose for it is utterly unworth, and LNG are very much running away with the game, which should have been more competitive.
Yeah, LNG, I mean, the team effort here, the grouped up fighting just looks miraculous for them. And that's what you said earlier, right? When this top side is grouped up, they look fantastic in a fight. And Haichao has been found again. The stuns are chained beautifully. And Haichao even flashes. Oh no. It's disaster for LGD. They were already behind. And now it's 5,000 almost in favor of LNG. And I don't think they're stopping anytime soon.
I don't think so either. LNG have blown open both side lanes at this point. You have to imagine that mid lane out of turret will not stand that much longer either. LPC has his cleanse up. Wonder how quickly it'll take LNG to get that summoner back away from him. Again, there's a dragon available. LNG taking that one. That'll be their second of the game. LNG, real credit to them. They saw the opportunities, particularly Scout, saw the opportunities to break the pressure which LGD had in their early game and just completely ran them through, just completely.
And I feel like LGD as well, like rightly acknowledging that they were in the better position to take the Herald, but just not necessarily expecting LGD to be like, yes, you are in the position to take the Herald. But how do you get out of that position again afterwards? And I feel like that is the difference maker between teams like LNG that you expect to be a top team when it comes to playoffs. Haichao.
That was
not
a
the greatest
nightmare
ever Frost. Yeah, he walks away. It's fine. It's okay. But he's having a bit of a tough one. Meteor moving in, but Tarzan's here too. This is not a 2v2 that Meteor and Haichao win. Haichao gonna dive into the brush. Scout in trouble. I take it back. This is a 2v1 that Meteor wins. It's Haichao just playing to run away, playing to buy time for his jungler. Meteor trying to flash out, but unfortunately outnumbered here. But now with some reinforcements, LPC slightly short on the ultimate. These plays across the course of this game have been wacky. They have been long, and LNG now try to chase out Haichao. The player that they were looking to pick at the very start gets finished off by Zika.
But this all starts again from Scout getting an unreal amount of damage from out of nowhere. Shock Blast from out of Fog of War, second one lands right after. Scout has once again started off the chain of events which LNG capitalize on into a big play. And LGD, it feels like they just don't know what to do about this Jace and about this mid laner on Jace. Yes, they're going to get themselves a mid lane out of turret. That means the map is opened up a little bit more towards their favor. They've at least taken 3 turrets to the 2. But I don't think they have the gold to split the map the way they're doing right now, which is a big problem because they kind of want to be splitting the map with their champions and picking LNG off individually. I just don't think they can afford to do that if these Shock Blasts keep landing.
Scout is just on another level. I've been saying it all year, like Scout's year has been phenomenal. He's a mid laner that's often, I think, overlooked in the grand scheme of the conversations in LPL. When you've had like Xiaohu being on form for so many years, you got players like Rookie, players like Knight. I feel like Scout often kind of falls to the wayside in those conversations, but he's just so consistently a top player, and especially towards the end of the year. I think that's the big thing about Scout is when it comes to summer playoffs, I feel like he's always on form.
Reminder that he left the team which he made his name with this year. You know, he left ADG, he left the organization he won Worlds with, and a lot of our questions were, okay, how is he going to do in a different team environment, with a different team, away from the pieces which he worked so well with? And the answer is, he's done really, really well with them. In spring, he walked away as our MVP from regular playoffs. We'll have to stop on that, see how much more damage you can do. Desperation Baron started by LGD.
LPC is not going to be allowed to play League of Legends today, as Hung is just haunting him in these fights. Haichao threatening in the back though, and LGD starting off strong. You don't have to deal with Scout if you just kill him before the fight starts. Hung goes down as well, and suddenly LGD are back in the game. Gala, Tarzan, Zika, what do you got up your sleeves? Especially Zika, he took all of the gold from the team in these earlier scraps. Let's see it pay off. Jumps over the wall to the team as Tarzan then dives back into the fray. 3v5 here, and it's Tarzan aggressing onto JinJiao, but Meteor moves over. Gala has got to find some damage as Tarzan gets on
Zika.
In goes Zika for a little bit more. 1-for-1 though, as he's taken down by Decade.
Bloody fight, and it's a massive one too, but LGD walk away with a bit more gold in pockets. The gold lead, which was being built up by LNG, has been reduced a fair amount, but they don't get the Baron. That would have been the difference maker. It's also very important as to why Tarzan survives that fight. If Tarzan dies there, Baron goes down with it, LGD might be able to regain the pressure which they'd lost from this early game. How could we possibly forget? When Baron spawns in the LPL, it feels like Act 2 of the great play starts off. Yeah. And even a team that is behind can pull out some real miracle fights. Haichao does a great job of finding the right angle and Scout. Has so much damage, but the shot blasts aren't hitting the targets that they need to. LPC makes it out, whereas Scout doesn't. The backline damage does make a big difference in the remainder of this fight.
Fantastic stuff from LGD, right? Like, clearly, the intention there is to find a pick. The fact that they get Scout is huge. Haichao, bit of a redemption play after having a fairly rough game across the course of it, and then, you know, Zika trying to make the miracle happen. Does get onto them, and LPC, again, denied entry into the game. But I don't know if that's a worthwhile trade, though, for Zika, honestly. I'm pretty sure Zika had a bounty. There's LGD. They're just going to start it off again. All
right, well, Zika, speaking of not worth, he doesn't have teleport. He can't make it here in time. There's a lot of execute.
Oh, my
LPC!
I mean, that's half his health. It's half his health. JinJiao over the wall here. Gala, Gale forces, and then dodges the charm as well. It's clean as hell from Gala, as you would expect. And now the rest of the team is into the meat grinder. Scout has so much damage. He grabs himself a triple kill. Wait, Decade's in the back of the pit. Is this going to be what I think it's going to be? Scout with 4. He's had a magnificent Jace performance. We've seen how much the Shock Blast do.
He has flash.
He's shown on the wave. Can he find the Shock Blast? The CC is going to come on in for Tarzan. Surely sacrifices himself for the pentakill.
Scout is back, baby. MVP of Spring, well on his way to contend it for Summer as well. This Jace has been a one-man army in Game 1. LNG are completely winning through their mid laner.
This is an unreal performance from Scout on the chase, and from the word go as well. Like, those early game scraps, he was winning out. He was getting his items online so fast, and now 3 items as well as his boots at the 23-minute mark. I feel like unless they get a pick on Scout, there's no way for LGD to win a fight.
It feels really hard. Maybe Zika can put out enough damage even if Scout goes down to that point, and Gala has a ridiculous amount of damage at his own kind of right of things too. So LGD, they're left with a lot of very difficult conundrums put on the table in front of them. At least they've got themselves a mid lane out of turret. That'll feel okay for them. It's very hard to take that turret as soon as the static Shiv Varus turns up, but they're going to have to leave that mid lane at some point for Baron of this Dragon. Dragon is already getting absolutely deleted off the Rift. They're not towards the top side of the map early enough. It really feels like it just rinse and repeat. Go back to the Baron, hope you can find one of these awkward fights that LNG can't cover all their angles of defense for.
And now, priority in the mid lane for LNG as they start to move over to contest this Baron. Meteor has a fantastic position here, but Scout does too. Haichao has been spotted, and he's the one that they're just going to jump on and almost one-shot. Haichao gets over the wall, and now Tarzan has to try and survive. Has to help Gala get out of dodge. JinJiao knocked up here. Shock Blast goes in, and LNG onto the attack once again. Onto the front foot as they chase Decade down. He'll find Tarzan over the wall, but I don't think he can survive this one as Gala goes in, knocked back towards him, and my god, he's tanky. Taken down and nearly took down Gala with him. The rest of the team escapes.
Haichao soloed out very early into that fight to the point where he doesn't die, but he's out of the fight. Scout picks his angles well, as do the rest of LNG. So LGD's kind of remaining play of, well, let's just try going back to the Baron and force LNG into a bad position. Doesn't work out yet again. It happens that the time before that, they give a pentakill over to Scout, so I guess it's not the worst case scenario. We've already seen that one happen. LGD now staring down at a Soul Point coming in from LNG, and this game is not getting any easier anytime soon.
Certainly not. These fights have been so weird across the course of this game. Like, we've had some really long, extended fights where it's like 1 or 2 players really perpetuating it, while it feels like half of the team is not ready to commit to the rest of the fight. JinJiao could be in trouble as Tarzan's found him there. Scout with a shock blast, but I don't think the rest of the team can really follow up. Yeah, that's one of the tankier players on LGD that's getting almost half health from 1 shock blast.
Some of my favorite memories of early League of Legends for me was, oh god. Season 3, Season 4 was about when I started watching Pro League, and if anyone remembers Poke mid lane Nidalee from back in that time, it was an era of audiences just go with that intake of breath whenever a spear would land. Feels like we're at the same kind of point with this Jace in this game. You just have to wince as soon as one of these skill shots lands. Back at it again. Yeah. JinJiao has to go right out of dodge once more. Scout, I cannot really overemphasize how much of an impact this player has had on this game. He has single-handedly one-man armied LNG's way into a dominant position in Game 1.
And this feels almost uncontestable for LGD. They're going to try and get into position, but LNG instantly respond by just running at the player that's TP'd in. Decade trying to get out with his life, and will be able to do so, but Meteor has been found on the opposite side of the play. Zika starting it off as JinJiao, no flash available. Support picked up. LNG didn't even want the Baron, they just wanted the picks there in. Decade with an all-out try and pull himself to safety. Chased out by Zika as in goes Meteor, trying to make the hero play, but gunned down by Gala. As LPC next target, Haichao trying to escape as his AD carry goes golden, but they'll both fall in the end. Tarzan looking for more, and the flail finds its mark. LNG are indomitable.
Feels like it's just the paperwork left to seal this game into the record books. LNG, they haven't finished the game just yet, but it's symbolically been over for a great long time at this point. LNG going to take Baron, they'll reset, they'll be right back onto the map in time for their Soul Point of Hextech Soul to be on the map as well. We've barely had a chance to talk about the Hextech Soul because that Soul isn't even deciding the game. LNG outfighting and brutalizing LGD have done that themselves. LGD, it was their weapon of choice to try and pick fights around the Baron and force LNG into awkward approaches towards that earlier into the game. And now LNG are doing exactly that to them. They can't cover all their angles in terms of vision, and these shock blasts firing in from infinite range are just way too much for them to do.
And again, I like the attempt on Scout there with LPC getting long-range damage, Meteor trying to follow up. Like, I do think trying to find Scout is the answer. It just feels impossible to get him, doesn't it? With the flail, max range from Tarzan. Playing Sejuani as a poke champion, apparently. Look at this build from Tarzan as well. The Redemption coming through, the Knight's Vow. Like, he is full support Sejuani, and he's still got over 3,000 health.
I mean, this is the guy that revolutionized Redemption Olaf back in the Hulk. Oh, whoa, my god!
The Redemption? Oh, it's not enough. It's not. I thought that was going to be more true damage from Tarzan there. I thought that might actually finish the kill on LPC. In the meantime, Zika just hammering away at the bottom side. He'll walk away, barely even taking damage.
Since when is it fair for a jungler to build an orbital strike as an item? This guy is just adding into the damage from his team. LNG, this is absolute styling on LGD, a team that we've often praised for Game 1 in a series. They had like 15 minutes of that at best, maybe just the 10, and that has been all she wrote for Game 1.
Feels like Tarzan's been playing Valorant recently. He's going full brimstone, the laser from the sky to try and finish the kills. Doesn't quite work out for him, but hey, the game has 23-9, and this slow and steady siege, using these cannons, using the massive minion waves here as Decade tries to threaten, tries to clear, but what can you do? And the poke is insane out from Scout's Jace as well. It's slow, like this is painful to watch. LGD just slowly but surely bleeding out. They have no way to do anything about it except Meteor going in. Gala's been found, but it's at the cost of 2. Scout's alive and it's all that matters. No way does he do it twice in a single game here. The Scout charging out for more. Haichao will be found by Tarzan. It isn't going to be a second pentakill, but it is going to be domination from LNG.
What the heck did we just witness? LNG, that is more than playing with food, because it wasn't like they were, you know, giving LG an easy time of it. That was just brutal. It's like a Mortal Kombat brutality. Like, what is left